The figure watching from the garden disappeared the moment Jin's head turned toward the window. But Jin had seen enough. The glint of binoculars, the deliberate positioning, the confidence of someone who wanted to be noticed. This wasn't reconnaissance. It was a message. "Stay with Ade," he told Amira, already moving toward the door. "Jin, wait." He was gone before she could finish, his body shifting into the predator mode she'd learned to recognize. Amira watched from the window as he moved through the garden with lethal precision, checking corners, scanning rooflines. When he returned 20 minutes later, his expression was darker than she'd seen in weeks. "They're escalating," he said simply. "Pack a bag for you and Ade. We're moving to the safe house tonight." "You said it wasn't imminent." "I lied." Jin pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen as he activated protocols she didn't understand. "I didn't want to scare you, but someone just breached our perimeter in broad daylight and walked away clean. That's not a threat. That's a promise." Ade burst through the door, soccer ball under his arm, face flushed with joy. "Dad, did you see my goal? I curved it just like you showed." He stopped, reading the tension in the room with a child's terrible intuition. "What's wrong?" Jin crouched down, and Amira watched him struggle to find the balance between honesty and protection. "We're going on an adventure, buddy. Like a vacation, but secret. Can you be brave for me?" "Is someone trying to hurt us?" Ade's voice was small. "I won't let them." Jin's promise was fierce. "But I need you to listen to everything your mom and I say, okay? No wandering off, no talking to strangers. Can you do that?" Ade nodded, suddenly looking much older than 6. The safe house was a fortress disguised as a countryside, estate 2 hours from Seoul. Amira watched armed guards patrol the grounds, while Ade explored his new temporary room with forced enthusiasm. Jin was in the security center, coordinating with Tae-sung, his face illuminated by multiple monitors showing every angle of their new prison. "How long?" she asked from the doorway. Jin didn't look away from the screens. "Until we identify who's behind this and eliminate the threat." "Eliminate," the word tasted like copper. "You mean kill." "I mean whatever it takes to make sure Ade grows up and you grow old." Finally, he turned to her, and the exhaustion in his eyes was staggering. "I know this isn't the life you signed up for." "I signed up for you," Amira interrupted. "All of you, even the parts that come with safe houses and armed guards." Jin crossed to her, pulled her into his arms with a desperation that spoke of fears he wouldn't name. "I should have stayed in my father's world. Should have kept things simple, cold. Before you, I could make decisions without my hands shaking. Now every choice is contaminated by the terror of losing you." "That's not contamination. That's humanity." She held him tighter. "And I'd rather have your shaking hands than your cold certainty." A monitor beeped. Tae-sung's voice crackled through the speaker. "Boss, we've got movement. Someone just left a package at the north gate." Jin was moving before Amira could react, barking orders, pulling a gun from a hidden drawer. "Lock down the house. No one in or out until the bomb squad clears it." "It might not be a bomb." "It's always a bomb." But his voice was tight with something beyond caution, something like recognition. "It wasn't a bomb. It was a photograph." Jin stared at it for a full minute without speaking, his face drained of color. Tae-sung stood beside him, equally frozen. When Amira finally saw what they were looking at, her breath caught. The photo showed a woman Korean, beautiful, with kind eyes and Jin's exact smile. She was holding a young boy, maybe 12, who gazed at the camera with a happiness that the current Jin had forgotten how to access. They were in a garden, sunlight making everything golden and safe. Jin's mother, and Jin before the world broke him. On the back, written in elegant Korean script that Tae-sung translated, "You think you found a new family to love? Let's see if you can protect this one better than the last." "Who knows about your mother?" Amira asked quietly. "Everyone who matters." Jin's voice was hollow. "She's ancient history, why bring her up now?" "Because it's personal," Tae-sung said. "This isn't business. Someone's targeting your trauma specifically." Jin crumpled the photo in his fist. "Get my father on the phone." Boss, you said you were done. Now, T-Sung. D-Sung arrived within the hour, stepping out of an armored car with the bearing of a man entering enemy territory. The meeting happened in Jin's office, with Amira insisting on being present despite Jin's protests. Adele was 3 floors away with guards, safely distracted by video games and snacks. You've seen it, Jin said without preamble, sliding the crumpled photo across the desk. D-Sung's expression flickered, something almost like pain, before settling back into cold assessment. I told you this would happen. Love makes you predictable. Save the lecture and tell me who's doing this. There's a list. D-Sung pulled out his phone, showed them names that meant nothing to Amira but clearly registered with Jin. After you restructured, several of our former associates lost significant income streams. They blame you for going soft, for prioritizing family over profit. So this is revenge. This is war. D-Sung's eyes moved to Amira. And she's the target, not because they want her dead, but because they want to watch you unravel trying to save her, just like I did with your mother. The room went cold. Jin stood slowly. What did you just say? You think your mother's death was random, enemy retaliation? D-Sung's laugh was bitter. It was a message, someone I'd crossed years before, waiting for me to love something enough to destroy it. They gave me a choice, walk away from the organization or watch her die. I thought I could protect her and keep my power. I was wrong. You never told me, Jin's voice shook. All these years you let me think. That it was senseless? Yes, because the truth was worse. The truth was that I killed her by loving her. D-Sung's composure finally cracked. And now you're making the same mistake. These people will use Amira and that boy to tear you apart piece by piece, unless you do what I couldn't. Which is? Walk away, give them the empire, take your family and disappear. Lives small, invisible, safe. D-Sung looked at his son with something approaching desperation. I'm giving you the choice I didn't take. Choose them, Jin. Choose life over legacy. Jin stared at his father like seeing him for the first time. If I walk away, they'll hunt us anyway. Running just means dying tired. Then what's your plan? A slow, dangerous smile spread across Jin's face, the smile of the man Amira had first met, covered in blood and consequences. I'm going to give them exactly what they want. Me, unraveling, desperate, predictable. That's suicide. No, Jin looked at Amira. That's bait. The plan was insane, which meant it might actually work. Jin would appear to fall apart, making sloppy decisions, creating security vulnerabilities, acting like a man consumed by fear for his family. Meanwhile, T-Sung would track every attempt to exploit those weaknesses, tracing them back to the source. You're using yourself as a target, Amira said when they were alone. What if you're wrong? What if they don't take the bait and just kill us anyway? Then I'll kill them first. Jin cupped her face. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She wanted to say no, wanted to demand a safer plan, a better option. But she'd seen Jin operate, had watched him dismantle threats with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a storm. If anyone could turn a trap around, it was him. I trust you, she whispered. But Jin, don't you dare die on me. Aden needs a father and her voice broke. I need you. I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her, soft and fierce. We've survived kidnappings and coups. We'll survive this too. That night, Amira woke to find Jin's side of the bed empty again. She found him in Adez's room, sitting beside their son's bed in the darkness, just watching him sleep. When he sensed her presence, he didn't turn around. I keep thinking about what my father said, Jin murmured. About how loving someone gives the world a weapon against you. And I look at him, at both of you, and I understand now why my father became a monster. It's so much easier than being human. Amira sat beside him, took his hand. But you're not your father. How do you know? Because you're sitting here, terrified and present, he would have already pushed us away. She squeezed his fingers. You're fighting to keep us, not to save yourself the pain of losing us. That's the difference. Jin finally looked at her, and in the dim light, she saw tears he'd never let fall. What if I fail? What if my love isn't enough to protect you? Then we fail together. Amira's smile was sad. That's what family means. They sat there in the darkness, holding hands over their sleeping child. Two people trying to build something beautiful in a world designed to destroy it. Neither of them noticed the small red dot of a laser sight that briefly touched the window before disappearing into the night. The hunter was getting closer, and Jin's trap was about to snap shut on all of them. The first mistake Jin made was deliberate. A security route leaked through a compromised phone. Guards pulled from the east perimeter for exactly 12 minutes, cameras cycling on a predictable pattern. Amira watched from the safe house control room as Jin transformed into a man unraveling. He snapped at guards, made erratic decisions, left the compound at odd hours without full protection. To anyone watching, he looked like a man cracking under pressure. But Amira saw the calculation in his eyes, the performance. "They're biting," T-Sung reported on day 3. "We've had 4 probing attempts, drones, long-range surveillance, 1 attempted breach that backed off when it seemed too easy. They're testing whether your breakdown is real." "Good." Jin studied the tactical map spread across his desk, marking each attempt with red pins. "Let them get comfortable, overconfident, then we close the net." "And if they decide to just blow up the house instead of playing games?" Amira asked. Jin's expression darkened. "Then we make sure Ade is somewhere they'd never look." That night, Di-sung returned with a proposal Amira didn't see coming. "The boy comes with me," he said without preamble, "to my private residence in Jeju Island. No one knows about it, not even Jin knew until recently. He'll be protected, hidden, and if everything goes wrong here, he'll be safe." Ade looked up from his homework, eyes wide. "I don't want to leave Mama and Dad." "It's not forever," Di-sung said, and something in his voice was almost gentle. "Just until this is over." Jin shook his head. "Absolutely not, we stay together." "You stay together and that boy becomes collateral damage when they finally strike." Di-sung's voice hardened. "I lost one family because I was too proud to make the hard choice. Don't make my mistake, son." Amira felt her heart tearing in 2 directions. Every instinct screamed to keep Ade close, but she'd seen the laser dot Jin thought she hadn't noticed. She'd heard the guards talking in hushed tones about explosives and long-range rifles. "Mama," Ade's voice was small, scared. "Do I have to go?" She knelt in front of him, smoothing his curly hair. "What if Grandpa took you to see the ocean? You've always wanted to see the ocean, and it would only be for a little while." "But what about you and Dad? What if the bad people?" "We'll be fine." She forced brightness into her voice. "And you'll have an adventure. Plus, Grandpa probably has a huge TV and all the snacks you want." Di-sung surprised them all by adding, "And a dog. There's a dog that needs someone to play with." Ade's eyes lit up despite his fear. "A real dog. Golden retriever, completely undisciplined. Could use a boy to train him properly." Jin stared at his father like he'd sprouted wings. Di-sung didn't meet his eyes, suddenly fascinated by the tactical map. "It's not safe," Jin said, but his conviction was wavering. "Nowhere is safe." Amira stood, decision made. "But Jeju is safer than here, and if something happens to us..." She couldn't finish the sentence, but Di-sung nodded understanding. "He'll want for nothing, I give you my word." "Your word killed my mother," Jin said coldly. "Which is why I won't let history repeat." Di-sung finally looked at his son. "I can't undo the past, but I can protect his future. Let me do this, Jin. Let me be the grandfather I never got to be a father." The room held its breath. Finally, Jin crouched down to Ade's level. "What do you think, buddy? Want to go on a secret mission for me?" Ade's lip trembled. "Will you come get me when it's over?" "The second it's safe, I promise." "Okay." Ade threw his arms around Jin's neck. "But you have to beat the bad guys. No losing allowed." "Deal." They left at dawn. Di-sung's convoy of 3 armored vehicles, creating a diversion, while a single unmarked car with Ade slipped out the back route. Amira held her son for 5 full minutes before letting go. memorizing the smell of his hair, the weight of him in her arms, the sound of his heartbeat against hers. "I love you to the moon," she whispered. "And back again," Adev finished their ritual. "Don't be scared, Mama. Dad's really good at winning." She watched until the car disappeared, then finally let herself cry. Jin found her an hour later, still standing at the window. He didn't say anything, just wrapped himself around her from behind and held on while she shook apart. "We did the right thing," he murmured into her hair. "Then why does it feel like we just lost him?" "Because we're parents, and every choice feels like the wrong one when it comes to protecting your child." Jin turned her to face him. "But now we can fight without restraint. No holding back, no safety protocols, just us against them." Amira saw the shift in his eyes, the monster he kept leashed finally being given permission to hunt. "What's the next move?" "We make them think they've won." The breakthrough came 2 days later. Tae-sung burst into the room with manufactured panic. "They've found the offshore accounts. They're draining everything, liquidating assets, calling in debts. Boss, you're being systematically dismantled." Jin performed fury perfectly, throwing glasses, shouting orders, looking like a man watching his empire collapse. But when the last guard left, he smiled. "Got you," he whispered to the shadows. The account drains were real, but they were dummy accounts, filled with money that could be traced. Every transaction was a breadcrumb leading back to the source. 3 different locations accessing the funds, Tae-sung reported, dropping the panic act. "One in Busan, one in Gangnam, one in," he paused. "One in your father's old territory, the district you both abandoned last year." Jin's expression went flat. "Someone's using the power vacuum we created." "Not just using, filling it. We've got reports of new leadership, new operations, all coordinated. This isn't opportunistic. This is organized." "Then we go there, tonight, just us and a small team." "That's exactly what they want," Amira protested. "For you to walk into enemy territory emotional and understaffed." "I know," Jin checked his gun with practiced efficiency, "but they're expecting the broken version of me, the man so desperate to protect his family that he makes stupid choices." He looked up, and his smile was knife-sharp. "They're not expecting the version who sent his biggest weakness away so he could fight dirty." Amira felt something cold settle in her chest. This was the Jin from before, the one who'd terrified her that first night with blood on his shirt and murder in his eyes. "What are you going to do?" "Whatever I have to." He cupped her face gently, the contrast between his touch and his intent devastating. "Stay here, let me be the monster for a while." "Jin, I love you," he kissed her soft and final. "Which is exactly why I need you to let me do this alone." He was gone before she could argue, taking Tae-sung and 4 of their best fighters into the dark. Amira stood in the empty safe house, surrounded by armed guards who couldn't protect her from the worst-case scenarios playing in her mind. Jin's phone went dead 2 hours later. Then Tae-sung's, then all 4 backup guards. Radio silence, so complete it felt like death. Amira paced the control room, watching blank monitors, waiting for news that wouldn't come. The head of security, a man named Kwan, tried to maintain calm, but even he looked worried. "Could be a signal jammer," he offered. "They used them to create confusion before." The lights went out. Emergency generators kicked in after 3 seconds of pure darkness, bathing everything in red. Kwan was already shouting orders, guards taking defensive positions, lockdown protocols activating. "Get to the panic room," Kwan told Amira. "Now." Not without knowing if Jin's alive. The window exploded inward. Amira hit the ground as glass rained down, heard gunfire, screaming, the wet sounds of bodies hitting floor. Kwan was returning fire, but there were too many of them, shadows pouring through the window with military precision. She scrambled for the panic room, but someone grabbed her ankle. Amira kicked, connected with something that crunched, kept crawling. Made it 3 feet before hands locked in her hair and yanked her backward. "Mrs. Kang." The voice was female, accented, amused. Finally, we've been dying to meet you properly. Amira was hauled to her feet, arms wrenched behind her back. The woman holding her was maybe 30, beautiful in a cruel way, with a scar bisecting her left eyebrow. "Where's Jin?" Amira gasped. "Your husband is currently bleeding out in a warehouse in Gangnam. He walked right into our trap just like we knew he would." The woman smiled. "Love makes people so predictable. Your father-in-law tried to warn him, but Jin thought he was being clever, thought he could outthink us. If you hurt him..." "You'll what? You're a cleaner playing dress-up in a world that eats women like you for breakfast." The woman leaned close. "But don't worry, you'll see him soon, right before we make him watch you die." More hands grabbed Amira, zip-tied her wrists, threw a hood over her head. She heard Kwan still fighting, then a gunshot, then silence. She was being dragged toward a vehicle when her phone, somehow still in her pocket, buzzed against her hip. A message. The woman felt it too, yanked the phone out, read the screen. Her expression shifted from triumph to confusion to something like fear. "What?" one of her men asked. The woman showed him the message. "It's from Jin, sent 2 minutes ago." "That's impossible. He's unconscious, secured." "He says," the woman's voice faltered, "he says you took the bait, now watch me spring the trap." The compound exploded. Not the whole thing, just the perimeter charges Jin had apparently placed while pretending to be falling apart. The blast threw everyone to the ground, turned night into day, created chaos out of their careful plan. Through the hood, Amira heard vehicles screeching, men shouting, gunfire erupting from multiple directions. Then someone was cutting her zip ties, pulling off the hood. Jin, covered in blood and dirt and wearing a smile that could cut glass. "Miss me." "You bastard, you were never in that warehouse." "I was for about 5 minutes, then I left via the roof and circled back here." He pulled her clothes, checked her for injuries with shaking hands. "I told you, let them think they've won, then change the game." Around them, Jin's real team, the one he'd kept hidden, was systematically taking down the attackers. Taesung appeared, dragging the scarred woman by her hair. "This is Park Min-young," Taesung announced. "Former associate of your father's, apparently decided the power vacuum was hers to fill." Min-young spat blood. "You think you've won? I'm just one head. There are 5 more families." "Not anymore." Jin's voice was arctic. "While you were busy attacking my decoy safe house, my people have been visiting each of those families, making very permanent arrangements." "You're bluffing." Jin showed her his phone, 5 photos of 5 locations, all burning. Min-young's face drained of color. "I told you," Jin said softly. "I'd do whatever it takes. You just made the mistake of thinking I still had limits." He looked at Taesung. "Take her somewhere she can't hurt anyone else, make it permanent." As Min-young was dragged away screaming, Jin turned back to Amira. The monster in his eyes receded, replaced by exhaustion and relief and love. "Is it over?" she whispered. "For now. And a day. Safe, my father just confirmed. Jeju was never breached. Adele's fine, probably teaching that dog bad habits." Amira should have felt relief. Victory. Instead, she just felt tired. "You almost died tonight," she said. "But I didn't. Next time you might." Jin pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. "Then let's make sure there is no next time." They brought Adele home 3 days later. Amira watched from the driveway as Taesung's car pulled up, her heart hammering against her ribs. When Adele burst out, running toward them with a golden retriever puppy scrambling at his heels, she dropped to her knees and caught him. "Mama, Dad, look, Grandpa said I could keep him. His name is Thunder and he can already sit and..." Adele pulled back, his smile faltering as he took in their faces. "Why do you look so tired?" "Just missed you, buddy." Jin ruffled his hair, but Amira saw the wince, broken ribs from the warehouse, not fully healed. "Tell me about your adventure." While Adele chattered about the beach and the dog, and how Grandpa taught him to play chess, Taesung approached with an expression Amira had never seen on him before. Something almost humble. "He's a good boy," Taesung said quietly. Smart, kind, nothing like I was at his age. He looked at Jin. You're doing better than I did. Jin stiffened. 1 week of playing grandfather doesn't erase. I know, Di-sung cut him off. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I'm just acknowledging that you broke the cycle I started. That takes strength I never had. The two men stared at each other, years of damage and resentment hanging between them. Then Ade ran back, grabbed Di-sung's hand. Grandpa, you'll come visit Thunder, right? He'll miss you. Di-sung's eyes went suspiciously bright. If your parents allow it. Jin looked at Amira. She saw the question there, the choice he was giving her. This man had orchestrated her kidnapping, had been the architect of so much pain, but he'd also protected their son when it mattered most. Sunday dinners, Amira said finally. Once a month, you come here, we eat as a family, and everyone tries to be human for a few hours. Di-sung nodded, not trusting his voice. He left quietly, and Amira watched Jin watch his father go, still wary, but something had shifted. Not forgiveness, but maybe the possibility of it eventually. The first week back was harder than Amira expected. Ade had nightmares, waking up screaming about bad people and explosions. He wouldn't let Amira out of his sight, clung to Jin like a lifeline, kept asking if they were safe now. We're safe, Jin promised, night after night, but Amira heard the uncertainty in his voice. Because the truth was, they'd eliminated one threat. There would always be others. On the 8th night, she found Jin in his office at 3 a.m., surrounded by security reports and threat assessments, looking like he hadn't slept in days. This isn't sustainable, she said from the doorway. Jin didn't look up. What isn't? This life, waiting for the next attack, teaching our son to check under cars for bombs, living in a fortress. Amira crossed to him. You eliminated 5 families, Jin. At what point does the revenge cycle end? When we're strong enough that no one dares try. Or when we walk away. That made him look up. We had this conversation. Walking away means. I know what it means, but I'm starting to wonder if staying means slowly losing ourselves. She gestured at the reports. Ade asked me today if killing people was part of your job. He's 6, Jin. He shouldn't even know that's a question. Jin's jaw tightened. What do you want me to do? Pretend I'm not who I am, that this world doesn't exist? I want you to choose, really choose, not the half measure of restructuring or going legitimate on paper. I want you to burn it all down and walk away, or admit you never will and let me decide if I can raise a child in this. The silence was suffocating. You'd leave, Jin said finally, not a question. I don't know, Amira's voice cracked. I love you. God, I love you so much it terrifies me, but I love Ade more. And if staying here means watching him grow up damaged, twisted by this world. She couldn't finish. Jin stood, crossed to her but didn't touch her, like he was afraid she'd shatter. I'll think about it. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. The decision was made for them 2 weeks later. Amira was at Ade's school for parent-teacher conference when she noticed the man. Mid-30s, expensive suit, watching from across the parking lot with too much interest. She texted Jin immediately, kept walking like she hadn't noticed, but her heart was racing. By the time she reached her car, there were 3 guards materializing from nowhere, and the man was gone. Did you get him? She asked Kwan, who'd appeared like a ghost. No, professional, knew exactly when to vanish. Kwan's expression was grim. But Mrs. Kang, he was taking photos of the school, of the children. Something cold and final settled in Amira's chest. That night, after Ade was asleep, she found Jin in their bedroom, staring at the same photos Kwan had shown her. Surveillance images of their son's school, playground, the route they drove every day. They're targeting him now, Jin said, voice empty. Not as leverage, as punishment. Someone out there has decided that the best way to hurt me is to... He couldn't say it. Amira sat beside him, took his hand. We leave. Tonight, we take Ade and we disappear. They'll find us. Then we stay disappeared. New identities, new country, new life. She squeezed his fingers. I know what you're thinking, that it's cowardice, that it's running, but Jin, protecting our son isn't cowardice. It's the only thing that matters. Jin looked at her with such anguish it broke her heart. If I walk away, everything I built means nothing if Ade dies for it. Amira's voice was steel. Choose, Jin, right now, your empire or your family, because you can't have both anymore. For a long moment, Jin sat there, the weight of generations of violence and power and terrible choices pressing down on him. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. T-Sung, initiate Protocol 0. Protocol 0, Amira would learn, was the nuclear option, total liquidation, complete dissolution, burning every bridge and salting the earth. Within hours, Jin's entire organization would cease to exist. Assets distributed to lieutenants, territories abandoned, connections severed. When he hung up, Jin looked like he'd aged 10 years. It'll take 72 hours to finalize, he said. Then we're ghosts. They told Ade the next morning, framing it as an adventure. We're moving to America, Jin explained. New school, new house, new beginning, you, me, and Mama. What about Thunder? Ade's priorities were perfectly 6-year-old. Thunder comes too, and Grandpa, Jin hesitated. Grandpa will visit when he can. Why are we really leaving? Ade asked, too smart for his own good. Is it because of the bad people? Jin crouched down, looked his son in the eyes. Yes, but also because I want you to grow up normal, play soccer without bodyguards, make friends without security checks, be a kid, not a target. Will you miss being important? The question landed like a punch. Jin glanced at Amira, then back at Ade. I'm only important if I keep you safe. Everything else is just noise. Ade threw his arms around Jin's neck. Okay, but can we live somewhere with a big backyard? Thunder needs space to run. Biggest backyard in America, Jin promised. The next 2 days were chaos. T-Sung executed Protocol 0 with devastating efficiency. By hour 48, Jin's empire existed only in memory. By hour 60, new identities were secured, passports, birth certificates, bank accounts under names that had no connection to Kang Jin or his past. D-Sung came to say goodbye. The old man stood in the doorway, looking smaller somehow, diminished by the knowledge that he'd finally lost his son completely. Where will you go? He asked. Better you don't know, Jin said, but his voice was softer than usual. Will I? D-Sung's voice cracked. Will I ever see any of you again? Jin looked at Ade, currently teaching Thunder to fetch in the garden, oblivious to the goodbyes happening inside. Maybe, when it's safe, when enough time has passed that no one's looking anymore. That could be years. I know. D-Sung nodded, accepting it. He pulled something from his pocket, a small photo album worn with age. Your mother kept this, pictures of you as a child before everything went wrong. He held it out. I thought Ade should know his father was happy once, that you weren't always made of sharp edges and hard choices. Jin took the album with shaking hands, flipped it open to see a younger version of himself, gap-toothed and grinning, held by the woman from the threatening photo. His mother, alive and radiant. Thank you, Jin whispered. For a moment, father and son just looked at each other. Then D-Sung did something Amira had never seen. He pulled Jin into an embrace. I'm proud of you, D-Sung said into his son's shoulder. For being strong enough to choose them, for being better than me. Jin held on longer than Amira expected. When they finally separated, both men had suspiciously bright eyes. D-Sung knelt in front of Ade. Take care of your parents, grandson, and that ridiculous dog. I will, Grandpa. Ade hugged him fiercely. Don't be sad. Dad says we'll come back when it's safe. I'll wait, D-Sung promised, however long it takes. He left without looking back, and Amira watched Jin watch his father disappear, something fundamental shifting in his expression. Like a door closing on one life so another could open. They left at midnight, with only what they could carry. 3 bags, 1 dog, and the accumulated weight of everything they were leaving behind. Tae-sung drove them to a private airfield where a plane waited, the last favor from Jin's old life. At the stairs, Tae-sung embraced Jin. "Stay safe, brother." "You too," and Tae-sung, Jin gripped his shoulder. "Thank you for everything." "You'd do the same." Tae-sung's smile was sad. "Actually, you just did. You burned everything down to save them. That's real love, man." The flight was long, Ade sleeping against Amira while Jin stared out the window at Seoul shrinking below them. She saw him mouth something. Maybe goodbye, maybe I'm sorry, maybe both. When they finally touched down in Portland, Oregon, a city chosen for its ordinariness, its distance from everything they'd known, the sun was rising. Jin carried Ade off the plane while Amira managed Thunder and their bags. They looked like any normal family arriving for vacation, not fugitives from a life built on violence and blood. "Ready?" Jin asked at the terminal exit. Amira looked at their son, still sleeping peacefully. At Jin, exhausted but free in a way she'd never seen him, at the uncertain future stretching ahead. "Ready," she said. They walked out into American morning, into anonymity, into the terrifying freedom of ordinariness. Behind them in Seoul, Tae-sung received a single text, "Landed safe. Thank you for teaching me it's never too late to choose different." He read it 3 times, then deleted it, crying openly for the first time since his wife died. And in the shadows of Seoul's underworld, someone else received a different message: coordinates, flight information, new identities. The hunt wasn't over. It was just beginning. 6 months into their new life, Amira almost believed they were safe. Their house in the Portland suburbs was modest, 3 bedrooms, a yard for Thunder, neighbors who brought casseroles and asked no complicated questions. Jin had become David Park, an investment consultant who worked from home. Amira was still just Amira, though now she was a part-time barista instead of a cleaner. Ade loved his new school, came home with art projects and stories about his best friend Marcus, who also liked soccer and superhero movies. Normal, painfully, beautifully normal. But Jin still checked the locks 3 times before bed, still kept a gun hidden in every room, still woke up at 3 a.m. and stood at the window, watching for threats that hadn't materialized. "You need to let it go," Amira told him one night, finding him in his usual vigil. "We're safe here. We made it out." "Safe is temporary," Jin said. But he came back to bed, held her like she was the only real thing in a world of ghosts. The illusion shattered on a Tuesday. Amira was at the coffee shop, making lattes and chatting with regulars, when a man walked in who made every instinct scream. He was Asian, well-dressed, and his eyes swept the room with the precision of someone cataloging exits and threats. When he ordered, Americano, black, his accent was pure soul. Amira's hands trembled as she made his drink. When she handed it to him, their eyes met, and she saw recognition flicker across his face. "You look familiar," he said in English. "Have we met?" "I don't think so." Her voice was steadier than her hands. "I'm pretty new to Portland." He must be one of those faces." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Beautiful city, isn't it? Though I imagine it's very different from Seoul." The air left Amira's lungs. "I'm from Atlanta." "Of course, my mistake." He took his coffee, dropped a 20 in the tip jar. "Keep the change, and Mrs. Ka," he caught himself. "Sorry, I'm terrible with names." He left, and Amira immediately called Jin. "Get Ade from school, right now. We've been found." Jin picked up Ade early, claiming a family emergency. By the time they reached home, Tae-sung was calling from Seoul, the first contact they'd had in 6 months. "We've got a problem," Tae-sung said without preamble. "Someone's been asking questions, offering money for information about your whereabouts. Big money." "How big?" $5 million. Jin's grip on the phone tightened. "Who's putting up that kind of bounty?" "That's the thing we don't know. The intermediary is using encryption we can't crack, routing payments through so many shells it's impossible to trace. But boss, whoever it is has serious resources, and they're not just offering money for information. They're offering double for proof of death. Amira saw Jin's face drain of color. They want all of us dead. Looks like it. Jin, I hate to say this, but you might need to move again. Disappear deeper. We can't keep running forever. Then what's the alternative? Jin looked at Amira, at Ade playing with thunder in the living room, unaware that their fragile peace was crumbling. I find them first. After he hung up, Amira grabbed his arm. No, absolutely not. You're not going back to that life. I'm not. I'm just going to eliminate one final threat so we never have to run again. You said that before. It's never one final threat. It's an endless cycle. Then I break the cycle. Jin's voice was hard. Someone out there is willing to pay $10 million to see my family dead. I won't sit here and wait for them to collect. And what about Ade? You're just going to leave him again, risk him losing his father permanently this time. Jin flinched. I'm doing this so he doesn't lose anyone. That's what you said in Seoul, and we almost died anyway. Amira's voice broke. When is enough enough, Jin? When do you trust that we're actually safe? When whoever's hunting us is in the ground. They stared at each other, the distance between them suddenly immeasurable. Jin left that night, kissing Ade goodbye with promises he might not be able to keep. Where's Dad going? Ade asked after Jin's car disappeared into darkness. Amira pulled her son close. He has to take care of some business. He'll be back soon. Is it because of the bad people again? She wanted to lie, to protect him from the truth that violence followed them like a shadow, but Ade deserved honesty. Yes, baby, but your dad is really good at handling bad people. What if he's not good enough this time? Ade's voice was small, terrified. What if he doesn't come back? Amira had no answer for that. Jin arrived in Seoul 36 hours later, looking like a ghost returning to haunt his own life. Taesung met him at a safe house, along with 3 of Jin's former inner circle who'd remained loyal despite the dissolution. You shouldn't be here, Taesung said. The bounty's active in Seoul too. Every 2-bit gangster in the city is looking for you. Good, let them look. I'm not hiding anymore. Jin studied the information they'd compiled, transaction records, witness statements, surveillance footage of known bounty hunters entering and leaving Korea. Talk me through what we know. Whoever it is, they started making moves 2 months ago, right around the time your father announced his retirement. Jin's head snapped up. My father retired. You didn't know? He stepped down completely, handed control to a council of lieutenants, said he was done with the life. Taesung pulled up a news article on his tablet, Daesung at a press conference, looking older and tired, announcing his withdrawal from all business interests. Why would he do that? You'd have to ask him, but Jin, the timing is suspicious. Your father retires, creating another power vacuum. 2 weeks later, someone puts a bounty on your entire family. Jin's mind raced. You think they're connected? I think someone saw an opportunity. Your father protected you even after you left. His retirement removed that protection. Then I need to talk to him. That's complicated. Taesung's expression darkened. Your father's been different since you left, isolated. Some people say broken. He moved to a small apartment, cut off most of his contacts. It's like he's punishing himself. Guilt twisted in Jin's chest, but he pushed it aside. Set up a meeting, tonight. They met in a shabby restaurant in Itaewon, the kind of place that asked no questions and remembered no faces. Daesung looked like he'd aged 5 years in 6 months. His silver hair was unkempt, his expensive suits replaced by simple clothes that hung loosely on his frame. You came back, Daesung said, something like hope in his voice. Someone's hunting my family. I need to know if it's connected to your retirement. The hope died. Always business with you. This is survival. Someone's offering 10 million for our deaths. That kind of money suggests this is personal, not just opportunistic. So I'll ask again, did you make enemies by stepping down? Daesung was quiet for a long moment. There was one person, someone I thought I'd buried in the past. He pulled out his phone, showed Jin a photo. Jin's blood turned to ice. The woman in the photo was maybe 50, elegant, with eyes that could cut glass. Jin had never seen her before, but something about her bone structure was hauntingly familiar. "Who is she?" "Your mother's sister." Sung's voice was hollow. "Your aunt, though you never met her. She disappeared 20 years ago, right before your mother died. I thought she'd moved to Europe, started a new life. I was wrong." "Why would she want us dead?" "Because she blames me for your mother's death, and by extension, she blames you for continuing my legacy." Sung's hands shook. "Her name is Kang Yujin. After your mother died, Yujin tried to take revenge. I had her husband killed, her children sent away, destroyed her life the way mine had been destroyed. I thought that was the end of it." "But she survived," Jin said slowly. "She rebuilt, quietly, carefully, in the shadows of my empire. And when I retired, when you left Korea and looked vulnerable, she finally saw her chance." Sung looked at Jin with anguish. "This is my fault. I created this enemy, and now she's coming for you because you're all I have left to lose." Jin stood, mind racing with strategies and countermoves. "Where is she?" "I don't know. She's been moving between countries, using intermediaries, staying invisible." "Jin," Sung grabbed his son's wrist. "Don't go after her alone. She's had 20 years to plan this. She's smart, patient, and she has nothing left to lose." "Neither do I," Jin pulled away. "You wanted me to be like you, ruthless enough to do what's necessary. This is what that looks like." He left his father sitting alone in that shabby restaurant, looking like a man watching his son walk toward his own funeral. Back in Portland, Amira woke to thunder barking frantically. It was 2 a.m. Adele was asleep in his room. She grabbed the gun Jin had taught her to use and moved toward the sound. Thunder was at the back door, hackles raised, growling at something in the darkness. Amira's heart hammered as she checked the security system, offline. Cut, not malfunctioned. She ran to Adele's room, shook him awake. "Baby, we need to go, right now. Grab Thunder and stay behind me." "Mama, what's wrong?" "No questions, move." They made it to the hallway before the front door exploded inward. 3 men, masked and armed, professional in their movements. Amira fired twice, missed once, hit one in the shoulder. The man went down screaming, but the other 2 kept coming. She shoved Adele toward the back exit. "Run, get to the Johnsons' house and call 911. "I'm not leaving you." "Gio." Adele ran, Thunder barking beside him, while Amira laid down covering fire. She hit another man in the leg, bought precious seconds, then heard the click of an empty magazine. The remaining intruder crossed the distance in seconds, slammed her against the wall. Her head cracked against drywall, vision swimming. "Where's the boy?" the man demanded in accented English. Amira spat in his face. He raised his gun and jerked as a bullet tore through his chest from behind. The man collapsed, revealing Adele in the doorway, holding Jin's backup gun with both trembling hands, face white with shock. "I came back," Adele whispered. "I heard the shooting and I came back." Amira scrambled to him, pulled the gun from his small hands, held him as he shook. "It's okay, baby. You're okay. You saved me." But she saw his eyes, the innocence dying in real time, replaced by the knowledge of what he'd just done. Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights painted the walls. And Amira realized with devastating clarity that no matter how far they ran, Jin's world would always find them. In Seoul, Jin received a photo on his phone. His house in Portland, surrounded by police tape, ambulances, crime scene investigators. Below it, a message: "Your family is alive. This time. Surrender yourself to me in 48 hours or the next photo will be bodies." Jin stared at the screen, something inside him finally breaking. Sung found him an hour later, packing weapons with methodical precision. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," Jin said, "whatever it takes." Amira sat in the police station, watching a child psychologist talk to Adele through a one-way mirror. Her son, her baby, who'd killed a man 12 hours ago, who sat too still, answered in monosyllables, and hadn't cried once. The psychologist kept trying to engage him, but Adez's eyes were somewhere else, seeing things no 6-year-old should see. "Mrs. Park," a detective approached, tired eyes, coffee breath. "We need to go over your statement again. 3 armed intruders, sophisticated entry, professional execution. This wasn't a random home invasion." "I told you everything I know." "Did you, because your husband, David Park, doesn't exist before 18 months ago. No employment history, no financial records, nothing. Same with you, actually. It's like you both materialized out of thin air with a 6-year-old and perfect credit scores." Amira's hands clenched. "We're in witness protection." "Funny, because I checked. No record of that either." The detective leaned closer. "So here's what I think. I think you and your husband are running from something bad, something that just caught up to you and nearly got you all killed. And I think if you don't tell me the truth, whatever's hunting you will finish the job." Before Amira could respond, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She knew who it was before she even looked. The message contained a photo, Jin, bound to a chair in a concrete room, blood running from his nose. Below it, "You have 24 hours to bring the boy to the address below. Come alone, or I start mailing pieces of your husband home." Amira's world tilted. "Mrs. Park," the detective's voice was distant. "What is it?" She looked up, and something in her expression made him step back. "I need to make a phone call, and then I need you to let me leave." "You're not under arrest, but—" "Then get out of my way." The call she made was to Sung. He answered on the first ring, voice raw. "Have you heard from Jin?" "Your sister has him. She wants me to bring Ade to some warehouse or she'll kill him." Amira's voice was eerily calm, shock giving way to cold calculation. "I need you to tell me everything about her. Weaknesses, habits, anything I can use." "You can't go there. It's a trap." "I know it's a trap. I'm going anyway. Now talk." Sung was silent for 3 seconds. Then he started talking, and Amira listened, memorizing every detail about Kang Yoo-jin, the aunt she'd never known Jin had. "She's meticulous," Sung said. "Plans everything 3 moves ahead, but she has one weakness, rage. She kept your mother's wedding ring after she died, wears it on a chain. If you can make her angry enough, she'll make mistakes." "How do I make her angry?" "Tell her the truth, that she's become exactly what she hated about me, that her revenge has turned her into a monster who'd threaten children to settle old scores." After she hung up, Amira found Sung's contact in Jin's hidden phone files and sent a message. "I'm going after Jin. If I don't come back, make sure Ade gets to his grandfather." The response came immediately. "Don't do this alone. I can have a team there in 6 hours." Jin doesn't have 6 hours. She left the police station through a back exit, where a rental car waited, prepaid, untraceable, keys under the mat. Jin's paranoia had prepared for this exact scenario. Behind her, Ade watched from the psychologist's office window, and something in his young face had already hardened into understanding. The warehouse was in an industrial area outside Portland, abandoned and perfect for murder. Amira arrived 30 minutes early, parked 2 blocks away, and scouted the perimeter. 4 guards visible, probably more inside. Professional setup. Yoo-jin wasn't taking chances. She thought about waiting for Sung's team, about being smart and patient. Then she thought about Jin bleeding in that chair, about Ade's 2 still eyes, about the life they'd tried to build crumbling because someone couldn't let go of 20-year-old pain. Amira walked through the front door. "I'm here," she called out. "Alone like you asked, let him go." Lights flickered on, revealing Jin tied to a chair in the center of the space, exactly like the photo. He was conscious, eyes widening in horror when he saw her. "No," he croaked. "Amira, run." Touching, the voice came from above. Kang Yoo-jin descended a metal staircase with the grace of someone who'd been waiting 20 years for this moment. She was elegant, beautiful in a cold way, and her eyes were Jin's mother's eyes. Amira recognized them from the photos in that album Sung had given them. "You must be the cleaning woman who captured my nephew's heart," Yoo-jin said in perfect English. "I've been curious about you. What kind of woman makes a monster like Jin willing to abandon everything? The kind who sees past the monster, Amira replied. Now let him go, you have me. That should be enough. Should it? Yujin circled Jin slowly. My sister died because Disung loved her. My husband died because Disung loved his revenge more than peace. My children grew up without a mother because I was too broken to be one. She stopped, pulled a gun from her jacket. So no, having you isn't enough. I want Jin to feel what I felt. To watch the person he loves die, powerless to stop it. She aimed the gun at Amira's chest.